A client approached me one day and he basically gave me this job where I had to figure out what was going on with this laptop. I would go through and turn it on and it would just basically come up to our reboot process. So I basically walked through the troubleshooting steps of what to get this computer up and running to extend its service life. These are the tools that I use to diagnose the failing laptop. I used a screwdriver to extract the hard drive. I used this little harness. Basically it's an external hard drive where you can put laptop sized hard drives in there, which happen to be 2.5 inches. So, and I use this computer right here to actually do, I plug this into the computer and I diagnose using a tool on there. And then when I noticed that the hard drive that was in the laptop was failing, I ended up getting another hard drive that I knew was a good hard drive, and I ended up reformatting it. And as soon as I got it reformatted, what I used was this USB drive, which happened to have ISO on it. And as soon as I got the ISO up and running, I ended up having this computer that worked. And this happens to be the dead hard drive that was in there. As we were shooting, we saw that Windows was basically trying to repair itself, and right now it went blank, and I think it went back into an endless boot. So what we're going to do to diagnose what's going on with this machine is we're going to actually, what I think is going on with it is the hard drive is bad on it. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug the laptop. I'm going to go ahead and power it off, and I'm going to flip it over, and right here happens to be the hard drive compartment. So I'm going to take out the hard drive. Just bear with me for a moment. There's a couple of screws. Alright, a couple more screws. Here's a little tiny screw. I'm extracting the hard drive, and in order for this to go into my diagnosing software, I gotta take this little harness off. Of course, when you're handling a hard drive, always touch it on the sides rather than like sandwich it or anything. That's so a lot of the static electricity that's on your fingers don't mess up the hard drive or any of the electronic components. Right here is the little diagnostic tool that I'm going to be using. It's a little hard drive that I bought. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. See, the hard drive just fits nicely in there. Alright, and then I'm going to plug it into the computer. So this is the computer that I'm going to be running the diagnostics with. I'm going to plug it in, to the disk management option. And from what I could see, normally it should pop right up. The discs that are on there right now are just kind of like the standard discs that are on this computer. And as you can see, there's no additional disk. Yeah, there's no additional disk that is going on there. So that basically means that the hard drive that I'm currently working with has to be a dead hard drive. So with this hard drive, it's basically just garbage right now. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and plug into this diagnostic tool that I have. And I'm going to go ahead and plug it into this computer, and we're going to go ahead and get a readout of it. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh the settings on here. So it basically shows drive H is the one that I ended up getting put on, and it basically is popping up all over the place. So in order to make this hard drive usable for accepting an operating system, I'm going to go ahead and open up command prompt. So in order to get this hard drive ready to accept an OS, I'm going to have to clean it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the disk partitioning tool, which is disk part. And then I'm going to click yes, and then it'll come up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to list disk, and that basically shows the disks that are currently in use. And the one that I'm going to choose is actually disk 1. And the reason why I know that is the disk that I'm currently using is 320 gigabytes. And it says 298, but the way that hard drives are, they're actually in a different standard than they actually are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select disk 1, and I'm going to go ahead and type in clean disk 1. So what I'm going to type is just clean. So right now it's just cleaning the disk, and right now it's ready to accept an operating system. So now that we have the hard drive reinstalled into the computer, what I'm going to do is go ahead and power it on and make sure that the computer recognizes that it's got a new hard drive. So basically that tells me that it does recognize that it does have a new hard drive in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and reset this, and then when the BIOS screen comes up, I'm going to go ahead and push F12, and that's for the boot manager. So it's in the boot menu, and I'm going to plug my little ISO inside of it, my little Windows 10 ISO, and I'm gonna go ahead and select USB drive. So I've got USB drive selected. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and install a hard drive that I already have an operating system on, and we'll see whether or not the computer will boot. I'm going to go ahead and put everything back together. Sometimes these little screws are a little hard to mess with. But yeah, we're just putting the harness back onto this one. And then we're going to plug it into the computer that it came out of. So as you can see, it's already all put together. One of the things that I use to put the operating system on this hard drive is I create an ISO that I use on all my computer installations, like the operating system installs and everything. So this is basically just it. It's just a plain old hard drive with Windows 10 on it. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it into the other laptop, and we'll see whether or not we get Windows 10 up. So now we've got that put in. We're going to go ahead and put the little outside cover on. Alright, we're going to power back on the computer, and we'll see whether or not the BIOS of the laptop ends up recognizing that it's got a new disk in it. And sure enough, it shows that it's got Windows 10 on it. Right now it's booting. There's no error messages, there's nothing that's going on that tells me that that's a pretty good sign. So we've got the login screen. I'm going to go ahead and put in the password I set up when I set everything up. So as you can tell, Windows 10 is up and running, and we've got the machine going.